Have you ever heard of a storm that respected property lines? This isn't a fairy tale. It's a real documented event that left meteorologists and locals completely baffled. Picture this. A massive, raging snowstorm blankets an entire region under 4 feet of dense, heavy snow. Cars are buried, roads vanish, and life grinds to a halt. But in the middle of this whiteout chaos, there's one small plot of land that remains untouched, as if protected by an invisible shield. An old man named Jack lived on this property. When he woke up that morning and looked out his window, he couldn't believe his eyes. Beyond his simple wooden fence, a solid wall of snow rose 4 feet high, a perfect, sharp line dividing the winter apocalypse from his completely dry, clear yard. It was surreal. The snow didn't just drift or taper off. It stopped, abruptly, as if it hit a glass wall that perfectly followed the contour of his fence. News of this phenomenon spread like wildfire. Local reporters, curious neighbors, and even weather experts flocked to see it. They walked along the fence line, 1 foot buried in deep snow, the other on Jack's clear, grassy lawn. It was a straight line, as if drawn with a ruler. The contrast was stark and defied all logic. How could a storm of this magnitude be so precise? Meteorologists were stumped. They checked their satellite and radar data over and over again. There were no geographical anomalies, no strange heat sources, no man-made structures that could have created such a barrier. The wind patterns, temperature gradients, and atmospheric pressure readings showed a uniform storm system sweeping across the area. According to all known science, what was happening at Jack's fence was impossible. The snow should have blanketed his yard just like every other. Scientists on-site brought in advanced equipment. They used thermal cameras, hoping to find a heat source along the fence that might be melting the snow as it fell. They found nothing. The temperature of the fence and the ground inside the yard was consistent with the frigid air around it. They tested for air pressure differences, thinking maybe some kind of invisible dome was deflecting the snow. Again, nothing. Every scientific explanation they could think of led to a dead end. The wall of snow stood there, a silent, frozen mystery, mocking their efforts. As the experts scratched their heads, the story began to take on a more personal, almost mystical quality. The focus shifted from the how to the why, and that's when people started talking to Jack. He was a quiet man who had lived in that house for over 50 years. He was kind but reserved, and seemed just as bewildered as everyone else, but with a sense of peaceful acceptance. A local journalist, hoping for a human interest angle, sat down with Jack in his cozy living room. He talked about the house, his life, and the history of the property. Jack shared stories of raising his family there, the summers spent gardening, and the winters huddled by the fire. He spoke lovingly of his wife Eleanor, who had been the heart of their home. The journalist, looking for any clue, asked Jack if there was anything special about the fence itself. Jack chuckled softly. "It's just an old wooden fence," he said. "Eleanor and I built it together, piece by piece, the first year we moved in. She always said it was our little border, protecting our little slice of happiness from the rest of the world." His eyes grew distant, filled with a gentle sadness. Sensing a deeper story, the journalist gently asked when Eleanor had passed away. Jack paused, his gaze drifting towards a framed photo of a smiling woman on the mantelpiece. He took a deep breath and said, "She passed on this very day, 10 years ago." The room went silent. The date, the storm, the fence they built together. Suddenly, the impossible event outside seemed to have a new, profound context. The journalist felt a shiver run down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Could it be a coincidence? One in a billion fluke of nature that just happened to occur on the anniversary of his wife's passing? When this detail was added to the news reports, the story exploded. It was no longer just a meteorological anomaly. It became a story of love, loss, and the unexplained. People saw it as a sign, a message from beyond. The idea that Eleanor's love was still so powerful that it could literally hold back a storm too, protect her husband and their home, resonated deeply with everyone who heard it. Skeptics, of course, tried to dismiss it. They talked about microclimates, odd wind vortexes, and statistical improbabilities. But they couldn't provide a concrete, provable explanation for the perfectly straight, 4-foot-high wall of snow. Their theories felt weak and hollow compared to the emotional weight of the story. For every scientific argument, There were a dozen people standing at that fence line, feeling the profound sense of wonder and believing in something more. For Jack, the scientific debate didn't matter. As he stood in his yard looking at the impossible wall of snow, he felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the temperature. He felt her presence. He remembered her words about the fence protecting their little slice of happiness. On the coldest and bleakest of days, on the anniversary of his greatest loss, he received the most incredible sign that her love was still with him, as strong and real as the fence they had built with their own hands. The storm that stopped at the fence was never fully explained by science. It remains one of those beautiful, mysterious events that reminds us the world is full of wonders that we don't always understand. It asks us to consider that maybe, just maybe, some things, like love, are forces of nature all their own, powerful enough to hold back the storm. Thank you for watching. If you've ever experienced something you just can't explain, share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories.